Okay, ma'am, why are you so confident of victory in this coming 2019 elections?
I am confident of the victory of the Nigerian people. It's not really about me being victorious, it's the Nigerian people. I am confident that from what I see clearly, there are many Nigerians who have moved away from the hopelessness that says, what can we do? To becoming people who are saying, wait a minute. There is something we can do. Democracy gives us the legitimacy to do a lot. The fact that I have the power to vote means that if we defined what kind of Nigeria we want, and we find someone who reflects the thoughts of what kind of a nation we should build, if we all worked together, we could actually get that nation. Because think of it, in 2015, 67 million Nigerians registered to vote in the elections. At the end of the day, only 28 million Nigerians voted. So almost 40 million decided to stay away. Majority of those that stayed away are people from the middle income stratum of our society. In other words, the middle class mostly stayed away. And the middle class is what I call the missing middle. So they leave the political space for the selfish politicians and the people at the bottom of the pyramid to conspire together through all kinds of relationships, vote buying, or all kinds of, undermining democratically, corrupting of the political system. They then conspire to produce an electoral outcome. And the middle class starts complaining that government is not good. Well, government is not good because we were missing in action. So the nearly 40 million Nigerians that did not vote in 2015, quite a large portion of those people, you know what their feedback is? They didn't want to be found putting a thumbprint for anyone amongst two candidates that did not measure up to the quality of leadership that they wanted. And so 2019 is ahead of us. And it was exactly the same thing again. You had people saying, I'm going to go and choose the lesser of two evils. And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of acceptance and resignation is this? How dare we, as a people, begin to think of ourselves so lowly that we are prepared to put to accept evil as what we can, because lesser of two evil is still evil, so how can we be voting for evil in our land? Every 4 years we vote for evil. So that is not acceptable. And so I had to say to myself, it is time. It is time to challenge this. It is time to confront it. I don't have any political arsenal because I've not played in politics. But one thing that I know that I have is I have a caring heart, and I have the character, I have the competence and the capacity. I have the power to convince, to inspire, to persuade. That's what leadership is about. And I believe that I am not running alone. We are all running. I am the candidate of the Nigerian people. The dominant parties are the candidates of the political class. They will take care of themselves. But we, as citizens, have decided that it is now time to offload that yoke with which they took the whole country down. I am determined on a race to the top with all of us, not a race to the bottom. They want a race to the bottom, where they put everybody down and then they enjoy what they call office. This is not why I'm running. I don't need the title of president. I simply am on a rescue mission. It's a Project Rescue Nigeria. For me, if I didn't have the title, but got the opportunity to mobilize us to do that work of building a different nation, moving on a different track, I would do it at the drop of a pin.
To round up, we could go on and on. We have thousands of questions to ask you. But how do you unwind? How do you find time to unwind in all of this?
People assume that I am too serious. There are times when people say to me, they see me laugh out loud, and they say, she laughs. Gosh. I'm like, what were you thinking? That I don't laugh? Are you thinking that I'm every time serious and looking for somebody to take down? And but they don't get it that I am just a passionate person. So I believe in something, I'm all out to, and I am serious to this extent that I feel that that our issues are so much that a person like me who's been privileged, I have absolutely, it's a luxury for me to be, to just be about me. It annoys me to know that the children of the poor, unlike my own time, have less opportunity. They should have more. If you're poor in today's Nigeria, you should have more opportunity than I did as a child of the poor. But unfortunately, it's not so. That annoys me. And so my seriousness can sometimes be my way of reflecting what's going on in my mind. But to your question as to how I unwind, you need to catch me dancing. But I don't dance in the presence of other people. I dance in the presence of my husband, Pastor Chinedu. Yeah. And when I dance, I really let my hair down. Yeah. You can see that.
Okay, this brings me to ask, you're the wife of a pastor, and lately on social media there have been conversations on tithing and whether people should pay their tithes or whether people should not pay their tithes. What do you think about tithing as a strong Christian?
Oh my goodness, the word of God is clear on that. And part of what I would like us to always reflect on is that people have choices to make. Even in the way that God created humanity. He didn't create robots. God did not create robots. God could have created human beings to be robots. It was the power to choose that God gave to Adam and Eve that made them to choose to eat the tree that he clearly told them not to eat. So God has always been in the business of choice. Now, people should learn to respect choice. If I am a Christian and I read the Word of God and I believe the Word of God, and the Word of God says to me that part of what God expects of me is to tithe, and I choose to tithe, then you must respect it. It's the Word of God. I think that the revelation behind your relationship with God is very personal, extremely personal. And it would be, you can't say you're defending people's rights and end up injuring their rights at the same time. So I would think that when it comes to a matter like whether you tithe or you don't tithe, let it be out of your personal conviction that the Word of God, which guides me as a Christian, that's my pathway to the decisions that I make, and they are entirely mine. I'm a tither. Even if I earn 1 naira now, I'm going to go and do my 10% tithe and put my offering on top, and I do it joyfully. God does not want the ones who are tithing out of compulsion. Nobody should compel, and say to you, we're forcing you to tithe. No, there is no pastor that I know, and I belong to the Redeemed Christian Church of God. No pastor says to you, it's simply that the revelation is given to you and you make your choice. There are people who sit in church and don't tithe. Nobody is going and scrutinizing them, So it's you. Get the revelation behind it and do what you should do. Me, I go tithe forever.
It's a proposed price of 30,000 for the minimum wage. What do you plan to make the minimum wage to be if elected into power?
That is a conversation that has to be based on the numbers. You have to look at the economy, you have to look at your productivity, you have to look at your fiscal framework. You can't discuss issues of minimum wage without context. And sometimes, what we do is we end up in a conversation that does not look at the full extent of all the factors that should be considered. I don't feel that the federal government and Labour have been candid to each other. And that candidness is so absolutely necessary. You know, minimum wage is really for you to set a floor below which nobody should go. And ensuring that your minimum wage starts from is the start-off point, you know, and that nobody's productivity, nobody's labor should be priced below this kind of an amount. Now, usually, the minimum wage should be a living wage. We know that through poor management of the economy, it is not so. So 18,000 in terms of intrinsic value, that is the value of goods and services that can fetch a person, is no longer what it used to be just even 3 years ago. So there are conversations to be had with regard to that. But it means you have to throw all the books open so that everybody knows what we're dealing with. You know, for every addition that you make, there must be something, that there must be a commensurate thing. So what is it that we're going to, because resources are not, what do we normally say, limitless. Resources are not limitless. Every priority that you choose, there's an opportunity cost. What would be that opportunity cost in that conversation? I want a living wage for workers in Nigeria, but it means that we also must have a conversation around what kind of bureaucracy do we need to have, and what kind of economic policies do we need to follow in order to raise the productivity of the economy. We cannot be at look at China. China and ourselves almost started about the same time in the 60s, having GDP per capita that was below $200. You know, the same China today has a GDP that is $14 trillion. We have a GDP that is 490 billion. 490 billion. That is not good enough at all. Is it 490 billion or 390 billion? Now these days I even forget. Yeah.
I have to quickly just throw this in. Your visit to Babangida, what was it about?
Well, you know, it's amazing. I actually was in Mina because I had been invited way before I made the decision that I would run for office. I'd been invited to speak at the El Amin school in Mina, which was founded by Mrs. Miriam Babangida. So they were having their Founders Day. So I had been their guest speaker that they asked to speak at this event. And because I had given my word that I would do it, so even though my schedule had become crazy, for those young people, normally every year I take 2 secondary schools at a minimum where I speak to believe in this generation. I believe in that generation. I believe that if we can think through with them, they are the ones that will really position our country and the continent to deliver Africa into the 21st century as the leaders. So I spent time with them on these matters. So I went to honor that invitation. And then I was told that the president wanted me to see him after my speech. So I went to see him. And when I got there, you can imagine the kind of thing I would say now. I told the man that we're here in our politics now to disrupt the old, and that the old other politics has to go, that we will dismantle it, that we are running a citizens movement kind of campaign. You know, so I in my typical candid way of talking. So he said, Oby, you know, everybody knows you to be a person of truth. Even when your truth is painful to some people, you would still be telling your truth. And, I really want to thank you for all you do in the country, in the nation. And he said, Oby, Nigeria is fortunate to have you. That was the conversation. There was no, others go to look for him. I didn't go to look for him. I went to speak at the school, and he asked that he would like to see me. So the uproar was entirely unnecessary. But then I understand, the way that these things, yeah. So
who styles you? Who styles you? Look, you always
My mom. My mom, yes.
Really?
Yes, my mom. She decides my my styles and the way that my dress will be made, and then I have the tailor who makes it. Felix does such a brilliant work on my. But between Felix and my mom, I get to wear, and I will be posing like I thought of it. I didn't do, I'm just a beneficiary. If you've seen there was a picture that I showed of my dad and I. Yeah. It was my mom that made that dress. Yes.
What advice will you give to Nigerians on the day of the election? Because some people think their votes won't be counted or in that particular.
It's a very good question that you asked. The truth is, if your vote does not count, they would not be buying it. If they didn't need it, they wouldn't pay for it. Your vote counts. Our votes count. Let me tell you, if out of 67 million Nigerians, only 28 showed up and nearly 40 million stayed away, with only 15 million voting in the president that we have, just imagine that only 20 million of the people that stayed back came out to say we're voting for Oby Ezekwesili to take the country in a different direction. Don't you think we'll get it? We'll get it. It's the power of the citizens that can make all the difference. Anyone who is listening to me should know that their votes will count. They must go out and vote. They must carry their parents, their neighbors, their friends, the people in their church. They must just campaign and say to them, we need a new Nigeria of our dream. And so let us all go out there and get it by ourselves. It was the president of America that said that it is the citizens of a country that can shape the direction of the country. 2019 offers us an opportunity to shape a new direction for our country. If there is anybody who sounds close enough to the needs of the people in this campaign, it's Oby Ezekwesili. Because I totally believe, like other people, especially the young men, the young women, the women in general in this country, that it is time for us to stop failing. I'm tired of the failing. And if you're tired of the failing, then the person you will be lining with is the one who is also tired of the failing. Some of these people are not tired. As long as there will be oil revenue, they are fine. But I don't care. The oil revenue, do you know that the entire oil revenue of last year was not sufficient to pay the salaries of workers in government? Entire oil revenue. So we're already in post-oil Nigeria, but you will not even see it in the conduct of our political class. We need to kiss them, okay? No, God forbid. We need to just wave them the distance and say, go, 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 go. You can even carry the remaining, barrels of oil and with you. But leave us alone to build a society on the basis of human development. Human development, human development, human development. Everything that has to do with health, education, and just providing the environment within which people can be productive. That is the core to my agenda. So the primacy of the Nigerian life as against a barrel of oil is what is going to be pushing me. So please go out and vote. And of course, you know who you will be doing that for, because you'll be voting for a new Nigeria of our dream. By the way, our hashtag says fight for Niger. Okay. Fight for Niger. Hashtag fight for Niger. Hashtag hope 2019. And when you visit oby2019.com, you will find information. And in a few days, we're releasing our manifesto.
I was going to ask.
Brilliant manifesto. You want to read that manifesto?
How about volunteers?
Very good. You're such a good man. God bless you. You see, when people have said to me, are you sure you would win? They would say things like, well, what's your structure? Well, I'm glad I don't have this corrupted structure that the dominant parties have. And that corrupted structure is basically, they will gather the people across the country. They put them on some corrupted, stipends and all of that, and then they do their bidding. Me, I really want literate, voters. I'm not talking about literate as in you must be educated. It's just be conscious, be politically conscious as a citizen. And you know what's going on? The young people, the women are volunteering on our campaign like no man's business because they are the structure. It's the human beings that make up your structure. The party, Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, has a national spread. We came forth in the 2015 elections. So it's not like it's a novice. So we have representation, and people are running for governors across the states on our party. We have senators, at least some 87 senatorial districts. We're running in about 247 House of Reps positions, and we're running for Houses of Assembly. So it's not some no. So volunteer, because we're getting many young people, women volunteering. We're also getting people who are donating, because I'm not one of those that went to government to carry money. I am not a successful businessman, so I am simply somebody who is saying we have an idea of the nation that we can build. Join me so that we can build it together. So please volunteer, donate to the Oby 2019 campaign. How do they get to volunteer? They go on the website? Yes, the website is so user-friendly. Hugely user-friendly. So you go to oby2019.com, you will just see, it just helps you. Immediately you log into it, the first thing you see is volunteer, donate, and then you have, it's a rich website for you to find out a lot about our party and about me. And our vision. I have to tell you guys that I've been very delighted. You see how relaxed I am? It's like we're just having a conversation. I'm going to do a lot of that as president of the country, because I absolutely believe in the fact that nations develop a character of their own through a lot of dialogue and conversation, and that you can't be this leader who is isolated. Look at our president. Our president is just far removed from society. I can turn up anywhere and just balance with those people and discuss some issues and know what way it would affect policy. I did it when I was in government. I was known as the minister that you could find at Wuse Market, just buying her own meat while others are buying theirs, and then it used to be very interesting, because in those days my colleague who was Minister of Agriculture, if he made the mistake of coming to cabinet to come and give us some fabu, I would just tell him that, Oga, that's not true. I went to the market at the weekend. This thing that you said, beans has increased. It used to be war in the cabinet, because they had somebody like me who was just normal and real, and I would go to the market. So I saw those things, and it helps in policy making. Otherwise, you just balance somewhere and be thinking, we've saved everybody. It's not. I would say it's not true. So my boss then would say, with you in my cabinet, who needs Ganifa or Amy? So, and I would tell him that it's a compliment. God bless you all. Thank you very much for the interaction.
It was nice having a conversation.
Thank you.